Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. I'm Fahima Mohammed, your host for tonight and relationship coach. Firstly, I want to wish all of you a happy Eid. Inshallah, you're all celebrating and having a wonderful time, whether it was yesterday or today, and even for probably the weekend as well. It will continue. I hope you all have a blessed day and inshallah, enjoying this wonderful, wonderful occasion. And tonight we have another guest with topic that hopefully will really interest you. It's a very interesting one, and inshallah you can participate if you are somehow sitting there after your meal and watching us, and you want to talk and call in and request any sort of message, or whether you want to send a comment or a query, you can do so by calling in directly to the studio on 01924231083. Please do ask the bill payer's permission, as standard network rates do apply. You can also contact us anonymously via our free WhatsApp service, and that is 01924835150. Sorry, 07585835150. You can see I've been eating quite a lot for Eid, so I'm going to be a bit baffled today, but I'm still here with you, and we are going to be having an hour show where we're going to be talking about manifesting your future spouse with my special guest today, all the way from the US and Oregon, and she is Katie Miranda Al Ali. Salamu alaikum, Katie.
Wa alaikum assalam, Fahima. Thanks for having me.
I am so happy to have you. You are one special person who has such an amazing story. I cannot wait any longer for our viewers to hear all about it. So I'm going to try not to interrupt you, but if I do, please forgive me because I'm. But at the same time, I want you to start off by just introducing yourself and what you do, and who is Katie?
Sure. I am a transformational visionary artist. I help people get out of their way so that they can manifest what they want in their life. And I do that by creating future memory paintings for them of the life that they want to manifest. And I will tell you a little bit more about that as we go on into the program. I'm also a jewelry designer. I design Arabic calligraphy jewelry, and I just want to help single Muslims find their match, because I waited 43 years to get
Wow.
married to my now husband, and I know what that's like, and I want to help you guys out if I can.
Wow, that's so inspirational. And it's so much hope that you bring as well. And, mashallah, you look absolutely gorgeous and you're a beautiful person inside and out. And the fact that you want to help others and you do this, which is so different. Now, tell me your story about coming into Islam first, and how did that sort of start and manifest? Because I think we need to start from the beginning. And that's where, we will sort of create this idea of, you becoming who you are today. So go through the beginning of the stages that you went through.
Sure, yeah. I ended up in Palestine in 2006. I was volunteering for an organization called the International Solidarity Movement, which is a nonviolent movement committed to opposing the Israeli occupation of Palestinian land. And I got interested in Palestine actually because I come from a Jewish background. My mother was Jewish. And so I grew up learning the Jewish side of the history of Palestine. And it wasn't until the Iraq War that I started to learn that there was another version of the history. And I learned this basically because people back then, like in 2003, 2004, who were part of the anti-war movement, they were against the occupation of Iraq and Afghanistan. And I came to realize that it's not really logical or rational to be against the occupation of Iraq and Afghanistan and before the occupation of Palestine. So I came to the subject of Palestine kind of through the anti-war movement, and in 2000, 2006, I ended up in Ramallah working with the International Solidarity Movement.
Wow. That's so amazing. And how did that sort of journey sort of help you to sort of like create an interest, not just on the actual movement and the history and the current situation, but the actual faith?
Yeah, sure. Well, those of us who were not born Muslim, those of us who were born and raised in the West, we don't have an understanding of how spiritually bankrupt Western society can be. And you don't ever really that unless you travel to a place that, the whole culture and society is religious. And, most Americans, they come from a Christian background, but our culture isn't specifically. And just being in a society where faith was a very and Muslims and Jews, it just gave me a whole new perspective and new meaning to life. And I saw the strength that Islam gave to the Palestinians who were facing just horrific conditions on a day-to-day life. And they could go through their day and they probably had a bad day because most days in Palestine are bad. And at the end of the day, if they had their family with them and they had food on the table, they would say, Alhamdulillah. And Islam could give them such strength to continue on their path of just existing, under this occupation and oppression and apartheid.
Amazing. That is really a loving sort of like way of describing the Muslim faith and culture. And I think a lot of us Muslims that are born even forget and we take it for granted. So it's nice to hear someone from the outside world even giving that sort of analysis as well as a reminder, because we always get a side of Islam which is all about oppression and all great. So it's really nice to hear you sort of describe it like that, especially coming from an outside perspective. So tell me, when it comes to you then, obviously you were single. So how did the rest of your journey unfold from that point onwards?
Sure, yeah. I came back to the United States in 2009. I decided to become a Muslim. I got married very quickly, like too quickly, really. And that marriage did not work out. And I ended up divorced at, I think I was age 40. Or I ended up separating at age 40. And that is just not such a great age to start along the path of trying to find a new husband. I not only was a single female Muslim, I was also a convert. And a lot of born Muslims, they don't want to get involved with converts for, various reasons. But I knew that I wanted to get remarried. And about a year before I met my now husband, I drew a picture of him. And I'm going to share this with you. I have a printout of it. I drew the picture on the top in 2015. And
Yeah.
I met him. I met a guy who has this uncanny resemblance to him in 2016.
Wow.
And then we got married in 2018, as you can see.
Wow. That is a very, very close resemblance, if anything. Wow, that's amazing. Did you know that you had this ability when you drew, or did it come afterwards, or was it something that you knew from before?
Well, I had studied art in college. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in art. So I'm a professional illustrator and painter. So I'm always drawing all the time. So I definitely had that ability. I did not know about manifesting back then. I did not know what that was all about. But when we had our wedding, I was 43 years old. And neither me nor my husband had children, and we both wanted children. And I was seeing some doctors, and they were telling me, well, you are basically too old to have kids because you're 43 and you have a less than 1% chance of getting pregnant and getting and staying pregnant. And I ended up having 4 miscarriages.
Wow.
And the doctors were just, telling me I should look into other options. But I really didn't believe that I was infertile. Okay. And I think that's part of manifesting, is you have to have a belief that you are going to manifest what you want into your life. And I just
Respectfully, Katie, I don't want you to continue with the story until we come back from a break, because what you're saying is so touching. And in case you go into something even more in depth, I want you to continue after the break and give you the ample amount of time that you deserve, because you really touched on something that is so important. Firstly, you being married at a very much older age. And at the same time, you trying for a child and told not, having one, then going through miscarriage. So I just want to quickly sort of recap what you've just said. And then for you to continue this conversation, I want to make sure that I respectfully give you that time. And we are coming up into a break very, very shortly. And I really urge people to rewind and take note, because what's coming up is going to be even more exciting. And the fact that you are definitely, obviously, not just in your artwork, but in the art of manifestation. We're also going to go into that very soon as well. So we are coming up onto our first break in a few moments. Please stay with us and do not go away, as we have Katie in the US with us today, talking about this wonderful topic and her amazing journey. And inshallah, we will continue in a few moments. Please stay tuned, and we will see you in a bit. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. We're having a wonderful conversation with my beautiful guest tonight, Katie Miranda, who is all the way from the US. And before the break, you were discussing a very amazing story. Everything's amazing about what you've said so far, especially how you started off, coming into Islam and being in Palestine and looking at Muslims and how they were sort of grateful for even, through tragedy and through adversity, which kind of helped you understand the culture more and obviously turned that into you wanting to become a Muslim yourself. And then we also discussed briefly, which I did cut you off deliberately because I want to give you the space and the respect to actually now talk about it in real depth with regards to you being married at the age of 40 and also, trying for a baby, which you were told that you couldn't at that age or a bit older than 40 and it's not possible. And you did have these miscarriages and you had to look for other options. And then you came on to this amazing point of manifestation, which I love. And that is about having a belief, even if it's not realistic in the 3D world. And this is what it's all about, even in our faith, with regards to tawakkul and trust. And, what's meant for you is not going to miss you, regardless of what even the scientists and the doctors say. So this is what it's all about. So please continue, Katie, with regards to your story, starting from when you were told that, it was difficult for you to actually carry and keep a child.
Yeah, so after my third miscarriage, my husband said to me, well, Katie, you drew me and you manifested me. Why don't you try drawing our future kid and see if you can manifest our future kid? And so I did. I drew this picture right here. And about,
Hold it up a little bit. Hold it up a little bit. That's it. Wow. Oh,
yeah,
mashallah.
about 9 months after I drew the picture, I got pregnant again. Um, and I had my son. It was a healthy, normal pregnancy. I had him when I was 45.
Wow.
And he's a healthy, normal kid. He's very active. He's speaking 2 languages now, Arabic and English, alhamdulillah. And
Mashallah.
it all worked out. And I want to make a point for single Muslims, particularly women, if they've had some bad experiences in the past. And we all have. We've been out on bad dates, we've had our hearts broken, but sometimes it's just a numbers game, and you have to get out there and continually put yourself in front of new people. And for me, having a baby after 40, it's risky, and I applied the same rationality, the same logic to having a baby after 40, that it was just a numbers game. And we women, we have a finite number of eggs, right? And as we age, the egg quality goes down. But I became obsessed with the fact that I was not infertile. I mean, there was no evidence to suggest that I was infertile because I kept getting pregnant, right? So I became obsessed with improving my egg quality and improving my chances. And just like it was with meeting and marrying a great man, it was a numbers game. With getting pregnant, it was also a numbers game too. And sometimes you have to go through a bunch of frogs before you meet your prince, and sometimes you have to go through a bunch of eggs before you, or I should say, before God picks a winner.
Absolutely. I love what you just said. And I know you've overall summarized it and given us sort of a gist of it, but I want to go into more detail because I think it's so much more, especially what sort of hit me is when you said that you obviously you manifested, you believed, and it's a numbers game. But when you said that you went through a process of, trying to get healthier eggs, was this like a change in diet, or was it something just in your belief? Was it, a combination? Because if people really truly want to manifest, I think that they need to understand the practical sort of realities about what does that actually mean and what does that actually look like. So if someone is going through whatever adversity or challenge today and they want something, what would be the steps that they take? And is it just one thing about just the belief? Or is it other things that when you have the belief, you take those steps literally? So what is it?
Yeah, it's the second thing you said. It's when you have this unwavering belief. And this drawing here was my unwavering belief. This is what carried me into the future to this. Okay. So when you have this belief, you start to adjust your life path so that that is where you're heading, and so that nothing is going to take you off that path. And I'm not going to say it was easy. I had to make some lifestyle adjustments. I was already very healthy anyways. I was already eating very healthy, and I was always very active. But I cut out plastics. I got rid of all my plastic Tupperware because plastics can leach endocrine disrupting chemicals into your food, and that lowers your fertility, both for men and women. This is not just something that women have to do. This is something that men should also be on the looking
That's so
out for as well.
interesting. That is so interesting because a lot of us think it's the actual food itself, but even just thinking about the container it's kept in, like I never really thought of that before. So that is a very, very interesting point. So it just goes to show that, your knowledge went way beyond the norm in order for you to take this to the next level.
Yeah, well, I became obsessed and I read a bunch of books. I joined Facebook groups for women over 40 who were trying to conceive. Um, I stopped drinking coffee. I cut out sugar. That cutting out chocolate was one of the hardest things
Yeah,
for me
I
because
don't
I
like
love chocolate. Chocolate
that.
is
Really
what
dark
makes life
one.
beautiful. Um,
Yes.
and I even had to cut back my running because I'm a marathon runner and you can't be working your body that hard if you're trying to get pregnant. So I reduced my mileage. Um, and it, as I said, it ended up just being kind of a numbers game. But if there are women out there who are struggling to get pregnant, the number one thing that I recommend is a book called It Starts with the Egg.
Okay.
And that will tell you about all the kind of detoxification you need to do in your life so you don't have these endocrine disrupting chemicals coming into your food and your skin. A lot of people use lotions or perfumes that have phthalates in them, and those can lower your fertility and increase the risk of miscarriage. So I highly recommend that book. It's called It Starts with the Egg.
Do you feel pregnant, but just to stay and eat and be clean in their sort of like eating and nutrition and health?
Oh, could you repeat that again, Fahima? I missed what
Yeah,
you
sure.
said.
I said that that book that you recommended, is it just for getting pregnant?
For
Health
getting and
generally,
staying
understanding.
pregnant.
Yeah, do
Sorry,
you
our connection's a little unstable. The book is for getting and staying pregnant.
okay. Do you think it'll be useful for anyone generally, even if they don't want to get pregnant, just to stay healthy and clean in their sort of intake of food?
Yes, but it's specifically geared towards couples who are trying to get pregnant. So it's not just advice for the women, it's advice for the men too. A lot of the fertility industry, it's like so much of the focus is on the woman, but it's, the man is 50% of the equation, right? So my husband stopped caffeine as well, and he cut back sugar as well, and we both ate a pretty clean diet.
I think that's very important, actually, what you just said. When it comes to fertility, we always look at it as it's just the responsibility of the woman because she's carrying the baby. But you're absolutely right. It is definitely half and half. And I think that's a very important point that you made just there. Now, when it comes to the manifestation, again, I really am interested in that and intrigued because obviously that's also part of your business. And again, I know you're obviously a professional artist, but the manifestation, obviously, that came a little bit later on. And how did that kind of like take off into something that you took further and further and further from your drawing and manifesting your husband to your child? And then from where did that go to?
Well, I absolutely love drawing and painting and illustrating. And it just seemed to me that after these two successes that I had after drawing what I wanted, it seemed like that was something that I could bring to other people. So now I am working with clients, helping them manifest their future dreams. One of my biggest success stories is a man named Jonas Caballero. Jonas was a friend that I met when I was in Palestine. We were both working together with the International Solidarity Movement, and we became best friends there. He eventually got deported by the Israelis back to the US. And I lost touch with him for about 10 years. And I didn't really know what was going on exactly, but I kind of learned, from talking to people here and there. I learned that he was into drugs. And
Okay.
eventually I found
Again,
out,
you
yeah.
always give us these top amazing stories. just before we going into a break, so you leave us on a cliffhanger every time, which is actually really great. So anyone that's listening and you want to know the rest of the story as to what's happening with your friend who obviously you did not get, you lost over time, and we're going to find out what happened next after the break, because I think it's so important again to give you that time and not cut you off in between, because again, you've just introduced the story and we're going to go into the entire story after the break, as Katie is obviously even manifesting this episode so well that she's leaving every single break beforehand on a cliffhanger. So make sure you come back and you will actually get the rest of the story. And inshallah, we will see you in a few moments. I really, really appreciate you tuning in. Please continue to do so, and we will catch you at the other end. Take care. Salam. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. Here with the lovely Katie again. And as she's always giving us these really, really interesting stories, especially a new one before we get to the break. But now we're on the other half. So let us continue before, we forget even. But it's really important that you talk about your friend who was on this kind of like journey with you, and you obviously lost contact for so many years. So what happened to your friend Jonas, and what was that all about with regards to your story, and especially manifestation?
Sure, yeah. So I eventually learned that he was serving a 2-year prison sentence for selling drugs. And I like literally had not spoken to him in about 10 years. And then one day he called me. He had been released from prison and he was kind of making amends, and he wanted to be back in touch. And I said, "Hey, great. Yeah, glad to have you back in my life." And we talked a little bit and we stayed in touch, and I asked him, like, what are your plans now? What do you want to do? And he shared with me that he wanted to go to law school to become a lawyer who would fight for prisoners' rights, because his rights had been violated many, many times in prison. And I said, that's awesome. We stayed in touch. And then later I shared with him my story about manifesting my husband and my son. And he asked me to work with him as a client because he wanted to manifest graduating from law school and releasing the weight that he had gained in prison, because he was very fit before he went to prison, but he ended up gaining a lot of weight in prison. So we worked together. We did a 60-minute visioning session, and this is what I do with all my clients, where I helped him get really clear about what he wanted and what he wanted for his future, what he wanted that to look like. And it's essentially time traveling, okay? I had him time travel into the future where he had lost the weight, he was graduating from law school, and he was happy and accomplished. And I told him to describe that exact moment in time to me. And then I drew a picture of that for him. And I don't have a printout of that, so I can't share it, but it is on my website and I can share it with anybody who contacts me through my website. So I drew a picture of him slimmed down on stage with his cap and gown, graduating from law school. And it was so motivating for him that he started applying to law schools. And in about 3 months, he actually had 3 acceptance letters to law school. And he started working out and shedding the pounds. And he just completed his first year of law school. This past spring was the completion of his first year. and he received almost a full scholarship to go to Albany Law School. So he's well on his way. And the reason this works is because people invest time and they invest money into reaching their goal. And that creates a level of commitment beyond just thinking about it or wishing it or talking about it. It's like if you have this painting on your wall of your vision for yourself in the future that you helped create, you worked with me to create it. It's like you have to complete that, right?
Absolutely. What is the difference, though, between someone maybe cutting out some pictures compared to you drawing something personal that actually does that? And also, does it just take the one session in order for it to manifest, or does it have to be continuous? And if so, how many sessions would one need to sort of like, apply this where it becomes, into reality?
Sure. Yeah. It depends on the client. I don't have a one size fits all. Some people need extra help. So for those people, I offer them follow-up sessions where we talk about mindset and we break down limiting beliefs that we have around this, because everybody has limiting beliefs, right? But that's not the truth. Like your limiting belief that you tell yourself, it's not the truth. It's just what that little voice in your head is telling you. And, some people call that shaitan. So he did not need any follow-up. He just, took off like a racehorse out of the starting gate. But yeah, I do offer follow-up sessions for people, and I create a custom package for them.
Amazing, amazing. I love what you do, and I find it so fascinating. The fact that when you first hear it, you think, oh, you just, drawing a picture of someone's vision. But actually, now listening to you a little bit more deeper, it's an understanding of you even creating a different way of that person being. So it is coaching as well, like you mentioned, of transforming that person in the way in which they look at life. And it all comes down again to the psychology and the belief systems. So it all kind of like comes into sort of like, play with regards to how you will live physically and practically. So it's not just, as, oh yeah, I'm going to do a drawing and that's how it is. And I'm just going to sit there dreaming and it might fall in my lap. Like you said, it takes work. It takes transformation of that individual. Because the main idea that a lot of people don't understand about manifestation, like you mentioned as well, is the fact that you have to still do the work. And that's what a lot of people don't do. And especially in relationships, it's like they think, even a lot of people think doing the work is just putting themselves out there. It's not about that. It's so much more. How would you advise somebody, regardless of, first time or after many years, after a divorce, whatever it may be, to actually do the work in order to create the space to be somebody who is open to a relationship? Because this is the one thing, no matter how amazing you are in your profession, how much degrees you have, and whatever it is, it doesn't matter. They always fail in a sense of relationships. So what is the one takeaway that you can give, or a few, because we've got time, of guidelines for individuals to kind of really not just manifest, but also in themselves in order to find and open themselves to a relationship?
Sure. Well, one of the best investments I ever made in myself was to get a relationship coach. And I did that after my divorce. And that helped me immensely. It helped me with my own limiting beliefs around what was possible for me, because I thought I was special. Okay. And a lot of people think that they're special. They think they're too damaged, or they're ugly, or they're fat, or they're too this, that, or the other thing. And because of this, that they're telling themselves they cannot manifest a happy relationship. And there's just not any real evidence in the real world to support that. That's just limiting beliefs. And that is what a coach can help with. And lots of times people have blind spots. And I know I had a lot of blind spots with men because, you know, there I was, I think I was 40 when I separated, and I had 40 years of, you know, negative experiences that had piled up. So a coach helps with that, helps dismantle that. And again, it sometimes is just a numbers game. Between when my divorce was finalized and I met Ahmed, who is my husband, I went out on 25 first dates, and that was over a period of 9 months. Now, a lot of people, if they go out and they have 1 or 2 or 3 bad dates, they just think, "Okay, well, I'm gonna take a break.
Yes, so true.
I'm gonna stop dating because this isn't working. There aren't any good men or women out there." No, you can't do that. You have to have the resilience to get
Mm.
back up, dust yourself off, get back out there. You know, I'm gonna tell a gross story right now, but right before this interview, right before I got on this interview, I was in the kitchen making myself a smoothie, and I stepped in cat throw up on the floor right before the interview. And I could have started swearing and, you know, gotten in a bad mood and gotten angry. But, you know, I just had to laugh and just say, this is life happening. You know, I can't allow this to upset my mood and attitude right before I'm going into this interview. So it's the same thing with dating and meeting men. And people just, I think a lot of times people just give up too quickly because they had one bad date or a string of heartbreaks. You know, I've had heartbreaks too, more than my fair share.
Absolutely. No, I totally hear you. I resonate with that. And at the same time, I agree with you. I always also give the same advice and guidance to my clients when it comes to that, because, you know, studying human mind and behavior myself for so many years and, you know, helping others in the same sort of situation. But it takes a lot of resilience. It takes a lot of courage do what you just said, and I really do I do really admire as well the fact that it didn't hold you back, because I think in even our communities there's all this like culture and limiting beliefs about women after a certain age, and they also are sort of like seen as second class and not of deserving and of worth second time round and things like that. So you actually, you know, break all those barriers, which I love because you're living proof of it, and I always believe that myself anyway. And we need to hear more sort of positive stories like this. It's really, you know, overwhelming what we go through, especially as lovely as the Muslim faith is. Unfortunately, the people that do practice it do come from a different sort of like, you know, limiting way of looking at things. And I think some of it is cultural and traditional. And we are coming into another break, which we're going to come back into our final part of the show. Please do stay tuned, as we are going to be talking to Katie for the last part of the show, which is only a few moments away. And I want to get the best out of the moments we have with her, as we have only for tonight. So do take advantage. I will be getting her details as well, where I will share with all of you, because I'm sure you'll be lining up to get your future spouse drawn and hopefully, inshallah, manifest your future partner. And it will be amazing to see a lot more people ending up being married. Inshallah, we will discuss that in a few moments. Please stay with us, and I will see you shortly. Take care and don't go away. See you soon. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. We are on the last part of this episode, but please don't go away, as we are going to be talking so much more with our lovely guest. And there's so much to discuss with regards to this. And now, you know, we've discussed so many different ways in which we can actually build our future through manifestation, and our special guest sharing her profession with us. Now, it's really important when you do the work that you do, because you do bring people sort of their dreams into life from a drawing. Now, how does that work? Say you're going and taking a client through some sort of like session. what would be some of the tips that you will surround yourself with regards to an individual by telling them these are the things, like on a general note? I know it's going to differ for everyone, and like you said, it's tailor-made, but what are important factors that can apply to majority of us when we are trying to manifest, when we are trying to build our future? What are the sort of like, guidelines that, we can actually share from your experience with your clients?
Sure. Well, I think one of the most important things is to surround yourself with people who believe in you, not people who are going to tear you down. For example, I did not want to surround myself with MDs who were telling me that I was too old to have my own baby. And I just had to push their BS out of my head, out of my subconscious. I didn't want to listen to them because they were not committed to helping me along the path that I was already on. And lots of us have negative people in our lives,
Yeah.
people who don't believe in our dreams, people who have failed too many times and have given up on themselves. And when they see us, going for this dream, this goal, they don't want to see us succeed because that is going to make them feel bad about themselves. And so they want to tear us down. You can't allow people like that to get into your head, because they will get into their head with their satanic whispers and they will interrupt your manifesting. They will take you off course. So what if these are the only people in your life, right? Okay, what if you don't have positive people in your life? Well, go on the internet and find positive people. Go on YouTube. Listen to inspirational videos. Like right before I got on this show, I was super nervous. I just messed my foot up, stepped in my cat's puke, and in order to get myself back on track, I put on Les Brown, motivational speaker Les Brown. Listen to people like that. Listen to Tony Robbins. There are so many coaches and mentors out there that you can connect with and who are examples, and people who came from nothing and built amazing lives for themselves. Like people, like go listen to Les Brown's story. He was told when he was a kid that he was mentally retarded and that he would never become anything. And he's now one of the most famous motivational speakers out there.
I
So
love that.
if you don't, oh, go ahead.
No, I said I love that because I totally resonate. And as you were speaking, it's so funny you mentioned about surrounding yourself, because I came across a clip by Oprah Winfrey saying that, what keeps you from succeeding is those people around you who are afraid that you are going into a direction that they cannot reach. And that's exactly what it is. And even another person who is a great mentor, exactly what you're saying about Les Brown and Tony Robbins. I've done all of those kind of courses and listened to all of them. Is also Dr. Joe Dispenza with regards to being a neuroscientist, and it's what I study as well, and how your brain and your mind works. And that coincides with manifestation. And he himself also, was in a terrible accident and was told by everyone he could never walk again. He goes, obviously thought differently and I made myself well. So if you can make yourself, ill, you can make yourself well. And now he's dedicated his entire life in helping people do the exact same thing. And we have it all around us. And I think it's very few blessed people who are taken in that path when they are searching, because I was searching, and it keeps now coming. And even when I open up a page, I've got a talk that I have to do, and all of a sudden that same talk or that same information just pops up in my feed that I actually need without me looking for it. So that's how it really works. And I love that. Now, we are coming to the end of the show in about just over 5 minutes. I don't want to leave it till the end because, your work is absolutely powerful. It's amazing. And I'm sure there's so many people that can really be helped by your expertise with regards to what you do. So please share the details of how people can contact you and get in touch with you and especially work with you.
Sure. Yeah. The best way, I'm not going to share a big long URL. Just find me on Instagram and DM me. My account is Katie Miranda Jewelry. It's just my name and then jewelry. I mentioned before, I'm also a jewelry designer. So just find me there. I will message you back, and I offer a free strategy session to anyone who is thinking that perhaps a future memory painting is something that they want to co-create with me. So we can set that up. Again, my Instagram is Katie Miranda Jewelry.
Amazing. Please go give that a follow and make sure you get in touch. If you are lacking in anything in your life and you want to take that next step and take that leap of faith, I will definitely recommend my trusted, lovely guest today, Katie Miranda, for her work and collaborating with her. When it comes to the painting, obviously that's a difference to your sessions. And when it comes to the cost, does that vary as well with regards to the kind of painting and the sessions? How does that work?
Yeah, so I don't have a one size fits all. I tailor things to the client's needs. So the best way is just for people to schedule a free call with me through my Instagram, and we can talk, and I would love to hear what you're trying to manifest and see if I can help you along that path.
Amazing, amazing. Well, we still have time, so I want to continue with our conversation a little bit longer. I can keep you on here for much longer if I had my choice, but you've given us so much food for thought, and you're such an inspiration yourself, and even, sharing your personal journey and life story with us. I really want to say, firstly, I'm really grateful and thankful for you to be able to do that and feel safe in the space, especially here on British Muslim TV. And I think that, we have, this amazing platform where we actually love to sort of celebrate, support, and collaborate with guests like yourself. So if there's anyone struggling out there and they are looking, because obviously with this show in particular, it's all about relationships. And that is one thing, like I said, a lot of people, even if they are successful in other areas, that they do struggle with sort of relationships. And especially when you are older, when you are a woman, when you are also, like you said, even maybe coming from a different background. What would you say is some of the things that you've learned from faith that is there, but unfortunately maybe our Muslims need reminding, or we don't actually use in our actual daily lives, that can actually help us move forward to finding our spouse and use the core of our faith, not necessarily some of the traditions and cultures that may hold us back?
Sure. I wish I could share this short story that I wrote about this topic, because it's absolutely perfect. But what I have found with a lot of single Muslims is that they have a belief that they should only marry somebody from their own culture. Okay. And that, when I talk about limiting beliefs, this is a limiting belief. And say, for example, you're Palestinian and you think you can only marry, you will never be happy unless you marry a Palestinian. Well, how many thousands of good men out there are you cutting off? Are you disqualifying because you're so focused on this one ethnicity? And I understand, like, if you're Palestinian, you have a specific culture and traditions that you may want to pass on to your kids. That's fine, but you know, you could marry somebody who's Lebanese, you could marry a Syrian, you could marry a Jordanian. I married a Saudi. Okay, like a lot of people, a lot of women come to me and say, well, what if a Saudi, approaches you? What would you do? Because they're so conservative. Okay, I'm born and raised in California. I grew up super liberal. I grew up like I was goth when I was a teenager, and my husband is Saudi and we complement each other perfectly. He made a huge effort to learn about my culture, and I made a huge effort to learn about his culture. And I visited Saudi Arabia twice now, and it can work out. So don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself by ethnicity, by age. When I was on the dating apps, sometimes I would get men messaging me saying, "Oh, well, you're really beautiful. Too bad you're 5 years older than me."
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I hear
you know?
you. Yeah, definitely. No, I totally get that. I mean, I love your story. I love what you do. I think it's so inspirational, and you've given some really wise sort of like tips and ways that we can move forward. And most importantly, we can actually, do something for ourselves to make a huge difference in order to get what we want. Now we've got literally less than a minute. So I just want to say, firstly, thank you so much, Katie, for being with us today. I hope to collaborate with you again in the future, even offline, as well as, again, maybe another episode here or anywhere else. I just want to say thank you so much for being with me tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was super fun.
It was really our pleasure. And again, I want to thank everyone that's been watching. And, I know it's Eid for a lot of half of, day of whoever's been celebrating. Please, I want to wish you and your family a blessed day, and inshallah you enjoy. And if you didn't have time to watch the full episode, please do rewind and look back, and inshallah you will probably want to search out Katie, who is on Instagram, and you can DM her and work with her to manifest your spouse or your business or your future career or whatever it is that you desire, because she's very talented, not just from her own profession, but also her life experience. And it would be amazing to hear some of the stories. And inshallah, we will be again on our usual time next week from 9:30 p.m. on Thursday with another guest and topic. I want to thank you for being with us tonight, and all of us here from British Muslim TV. We thank Katie, as well as all of you, and inshallah we will see you in an episode. Please make sure that you stay tuned for next week. We will see you then. Have a lovely rest of the day. Eid Mubarak. Salam.